Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, best place for long-term stock investors. In this video, we will be sharing our thoughts on whether or not gloves are dead, or is this the perfect opportunity to scoop up some undervalued shares. Now, as a disclaimer, none of what we say should be taken as financial advice. If you need that sort of advice, please speak to a professional. What we say is purely for educational purposes. As another disclaimer, guys, we do own some of the shares mentioned in this video. Now, guys, I know some of y'all have not been able to build a six-figure portfolio using the power of stock investing. If you're someone in that position, then you need to check out our free ebook, which you can find and download in the comment section or the description. All right, Jonathan. So let's look at how gloves have performed in the past, in the past year or two.
Yeah.
They look all the same. Do you copy paste?
No.
They're all different companies, right?
Yeah. Essentially, right. If you notice the current share price, or actually now it's even worse lah.
Yeah.
Because I actually recorded this. I believe it's around 4 days ago. So fun fact is that their market cap or valuation of these companies, each of these glove maker companies, they're actually way back to 2013 and 2014
right.
price point. So back then, right, I believe they make around for example, Hartalega, which I kind of remember a little bit. I think they make around like 200 million in net profit.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is a way back, super way back lah.
This is the big four, right? Kossan, Hartalega, Supermax, and Top Glove.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so it's been painful, and of course, I think all of us want to know how they've been doing, and then some existing shareholders, right, want to know whether or not they should be holding on to it, and or to sell it, and then people who don't already own the shares will want to look at whether or not it's worth going into.
Sure.
So let's dive into a little bit on the financials first.
Yeah, so I mean, if you guys are following the news, you know that a lot of these glove makers' net profit are actually down like 90%. I believe Top Glove also, I mean, it's not on the news headline, but it is also down plus 90%. Yeah. But if you compare with Riverstone, which is another glove maker company, if you compare between the share price action between Riverstone and the rest of the big four, right, they are down like 65%.
Yeah, predominantly because they have this Cleanroom as well, right? With a different business segment.
Yeah, so if you actually deep dive into their latest quarterly reports, right, you notice that Riverstone I believe they managed to capture 60% of the market share in the Cleanroom industry, and that is why their net profit only dropped about 80%. So the rest of the big four, their net profit dropped 90%, but somehow Riverstone still managed to perform better than the usual glove makers.
And of course the Cleanrooms, they are more we've met the management before, they're more linked to semiconductor industries.
Exactly.
So it's still cyclical, but it's not quite like gloves where you get extreme cycles.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I did a two comparison between the Nitrile glove and also the Cleanroom glove.
Right.
Okay. So if you don't know, this is how it looks like. Okay, this is the packaging lah.
Right.
So you notice that there's actually a distinct packaging differences already. So you see that Nitrile glove on the left hand side, right, they use box and there's nothing covering the glove. Whereas for Cleanroom glove, it needs to be very purified. It cannot exposed to air once you distribute. So it must be kept inside this thing called, I don't know what's the bag lah.
Yeah.
But it's a special bag to not prevent any dust or whatsoever or air particles to stain the glove. So each of the glove that is produced has to be stored in this package and then only put inside the box.
Yeah.
So that is a 2x2 packaging, which is very stringent. And so if you don't know already, so this is the difference between these two. As MJ mentioned just now, the Cleanroom, the reason why they produce Cleanroom is actually to cater for this industry, which is the semiconductor actually for pharmaceutical industry. Yeah. And then whereas for Nitrile glove, you know that it's going to be for healthcare and also F&B. And just like I mentioned also, the packaging is different. So one is purely on paper box, like this picture over here, and then the other one is polyethylene. Polyethylene. In their packaging. And then the making process for nitrile glove is actually pretty easy, and it's it's regulated internationally. But for Cleanroom, right, it's very stringent.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to go through a lot of process and make sure like nothing, there's like no other particles are inside these gloves. Yeah, once they found out, right, they have to like go back again and then like recheck, do a lot of quality checking and whatnot. So, and there's no set standards for this type of glove. And finally, the exciting part is that the gross margin for Cleanroom glove is actually much more higher. So they cater about like 37 to 40%, although it is cyclical because it follows the semiconductor industry. If let's say the semiconductor cycle is like going down, I believe also they will start to go down. Yeah. Okay. And then whereas for nitrile glove is much more defensive because it's a everyday day-to-day needs, and but the gross margin is around like 15 to 20%.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the difference between these two.
Before we move on, guys, we are reopening our mentorship program, right? This is a one-on-one session that you can have with us so that we can know a little bit about your investments, how they've done and things like that, and see how we can improve them. So if you're interested to apply, not everyone will get it. In fact, I believe only 15 to 20% of people get to be in this program. You're interested, go apply for it in the comment section or the description. And of course, if you're enjoying the video so far, remember to like, comment, subscribe, click on the bell so that whenever new videos pop, you will know it fresh. Right, now, so let's talk a bit more about the current situation, right? We talked a little bit about the stocks, different stocks just now. Now let's take a slightly bigger view, a helicopter view. Right. So let's start with the ASPs.
Okay, so if you haven't read Hartalega's latest investors briefing, or maybe even CIMB's latest analyst report, right? They actually did mention that the current Malaysian average selling price for gloves is trading around $20 to $25 per 1,000 pieces. I believe for Harta is also around like $25. So it is a pretty standard price point that we are facing right now for the Malaysian players. So they're charging at this current price. But one of the interesting fact that we also found from this analyst report is that they mentioned China's average selling price.
Quite a bit lower.
Yeah, it's super low.
At least 25%.
Yeah, exactly. So this actually kind of like signals to us that the China players are really that desperate for sales. Yeah. Although I believe some of the consumer did mention that their quality is very bad.
Yeah, and also I don't think the FDA is going to approve them, right? I think that's the big thing about gloves that people need to understand. The FDA and this whole stringent regulation is the moat, actually.
Yes, exactly.
I wouldn't say it's a very deep moat, but it's somewhat of a moat.
Yeah, you have to at least abide by this the standards requirement lah. Yeah. If you produce such a low quality, of course you have no choice but to sell at a much more below market value kind of price point. But okay, so moving on to their utilization rate, I believe Hartalega did reported that they are currently operating at around 69% utilization rate, but they do believe that in the future production capacity, they won't be able to operate as usual. Means maybe it will drop to an industry benchmark, which is around 50% to 60%. So it is a huge drop in production capacity because the reason why is there's actually quite an overstock inventory in all the glove buyers. So they're actually holding back in purchasing their glove. Yeah. So as mentioned, I think I put it in the last point that the overstock inventory actually lasts for 1 year and 4 months.
There are actually potentially some companies in the glove space that will not be making money for 16 months.
Yeah, and they're going to be bleeding a lot of money actually just to like for the raw materials and all the operation costs.
It'll be interesting to know like if whether or not monkeypox will sort of revive the glove industry.
Actually, that I'm not too sure. But and also another point which I didn't mention is a lot of glove makers are actually halting and cancelling their expansion. Yep. So that is the current situation. Okay, another interesting fact that I found a little bit on the Big Four's market cap versus net cash. So you notice that this Top Gloves net cash, if you notice in 2021, they have about, I believe, 2 billion in net cash. But in 2022, their net cash is actually as low as, I believe it's around 500 million. So that's about 1.5 billion of cash missing. And actually, they did disclose why. The reason is because they did bought back a lot of shares. I mean, that tells you a lot about their capital allocations, right?
Yeah, that's very, very, very interesting. I mean, of the four here, I've not really looked into Kossan.
Yeah.
I think so far Top Glove has, I mean, by pure looking at the results, they have some of the worst capital allocation abilities. Supermax and Hartalega has been quite disciplined.
Yeah, right? Actually Supermax one, if you notice, right, their net cash also dropped quite a bit. I believe it's around like 500 or 600 million.
Not quite
difference.
Top Glove.
Yeah, it's not quite the Top Glove. And the reason why they dropped is because they have been expanding in the Western countries. So for instance, in the US, they actually did, I believe they signed a contract with the US already, and they say that they're going to set up a manufacturing facility over there. Right. So it's already a committed kind of like a contract. So they have to pay lah. Anyhow, so they have to expand.
So I guess they're number 2. Followed by Hata, which is the best right now.
Hata and Kossan, they have been very disciplined with their expansion. So they have been carefully planning every single thing. Like when markets are bad, they actually got planned and they kind of like restock back the cash. Like they hold the production.
But of course, from a value investor's perspective, Supermax looks the most interesting because they're essentially trading below cash.
Yeah.
Even after the 600 million drop, right?
Exactly.
So you're getting the business for free plus some cash, plus whatever profits they might be making in the future. But, I digress.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this one is basically the news showing that they bought back for Top Glove, right? Okay, so this is the analyst report where they mention the demand and supply side. This is only the top 3 countries that is producing gloves. So we have Malaysia, China, and Thailand. So I just want to take you through that. If you notice the China bar, right, I believe is the light gray one. So they actually initially produced around 24, I believe this is billion pieces of glove in 2020. But in 2021 and 2022, that their production capacity actually 4 times. Yeah. So basically, it kind of tells you, I mean, I think everybody knows, right, Inco and Blue Seal are the top 2 major glove makers are actually aggressively expanding their capacity in terms of this because they want to capture the profits and all those.
Right.
And then, so, which brings us to another point. Basically, this is their projections on the demand and supply side for the glove. So the analysts did report that, if you notice the line on top of this graph, so on this graph on top, right, is basically
this red line you're referring to, right?
Yeah, the red and the gray one. So this is actually the glove supply. The red one is basically their production utilization rate is around 80%, and assuming factory does not shut down, means they constantly like produce glove and all whatnot. But the gray one is if let's say production does shut down. For example, so let's say like companies start to halt their production, they don't want to, or they start to like strip off their glove manufacturing asset, right? So this is what will happen. But if you look at the table bar over here, the blue and the gray one, so those are the demand side. And basically, as a conservative investor, right, I will actually look at the worst case scenario. So what will happen? Okay, so assuming that we are just looking at the red line, and also at the, let's say the demand is at the very low base kind of like scenario. Essentially, this actually tells us that maybe even in 2025, demand cannot meet supply. That is the worst case scenario. For example, means all the small players are still bleeding money and they don't mind to bleed money. Put it that way. And also they are still haven't bankrupt yet or something like that. So, but is that realistic? I mean, that is something you may want to ask, because right now we are actually seeing a lot of small players are stripping off their asset. They don't want to do glove business anymore. They are trying to like sell their asset.
They do have 2 billion in their cash bank account.
Yeah.
For starters, right?
Well, I mean, that is Supermax. That's different. But if let's say small glove player, I doubt they have enough of cash in the bank. So that is something that this kind of projection is different for everyone. But for me, I will just look at a very quite a conservative side so that I want to be like safe in terms of this kind of like demand and supply side issue. But the analysts, I believe they were quite, I would not to say super bearish also, because right now everything's are kind of toned down already. So they kind of like predicted that maybe in 2023, quarter four 2023, maybe that's where demand and supply start to like meet or like ease.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe even early 2024 lah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like 1 or 2 years time span.
Right. Okay. Just to end, right? So how you summarize all of this, right? What can we look forward to?
Okay. So this is what you as an investor should expect. So number one, definitely there will be consolidation happening because there will be players wanting to exit out of this industry because they are bleeding money. And this means in the future, there will be much lesser players in the field, which is great. yeah, that will actually, because when there's no players,
Yeah.
I mean, we are back to the oligopoly status again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second point you need to know is that the companies that have the most cash to burn will actually survive in the end. Yeah. So if let's say you are looking at companies like Top Glove, right? I mean, from a 1.2 billion to 500 million, I mean, they are burning
Rest issue incoming.
Yeah. I mean, they are burning quite a number of cash already on hand. So that is something you need to take note of. Or maybe even small glove makers, maybe they don't even have cash anymore. Who knows, right? And then the last point is that this is the analyst's conclusion, is basically demand will eventually meet supply in 1 to 2 years span. So, but I believe that right now the glove valuations are actually trading. To me, it's slightly attractive.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's going to go to the. If you want to talk about downside, definitely there is some more.
Yeah.
You never know,
But
right?
the downside is lower today versus
Yes.
maybe a year ago.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's almost reaching to the base already. So what can you do with this kind of information? I'll just leave it to you guys. I mean, if you guys are like still interested in investing in glove, then maybe these are the few key points that you need to take note of before you actually put your money into.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. Hope you enjoyed the video. Share it with a friend who might find this useful, and follow us on our social media pages like Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and we will see you in the next video.